Good morning, DJ, and everyone else commenting already on our social media site here this morning. Hello, everyone. It is a chilly Wednesday morning here into Wave Country. I'm Wave Meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to Snow Talk today. For the blog title, at least, we may have to do another blend of snow and storm talk as we get a little further into the week. But Snow Talk will likely roll much of the extended, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. But we'll get into that coming up in just a few minutes. It will be a relatively short blog here today, but we'll try to cover as much as I can. So bear with me on some of your questions. I'll try to get to them there toward the very end if we have enough time. All right. So Renee, you're asking about will this turn to ice tonight? We're going to look at that, at least some potential coming up here in just a few minutes. As always the case, so this early in the day, I'd like to get right into the snow blog, snowboard itself. And let's do just that. And we'll start off with the latest look on the, at least the weekend potential. Not much happening in the short term because the Thursday flurries for tomorrow morning look very minor. I'm not overly worried about that end. We get into the weekend. It still looks like a rain to snow setup as we into Saturday and Sunday. But that window for snowfall, it's there, but it's narrow because the atmosphere does dry out. But it is going to be a cold blast of air. And as you guys know, in these setups, we tend to squeeze out more snow shower activity than what the models tend to indicate. So we will likely have a snow globe effect. My biggest concern on Sunday is not so much the snow as it is, will we have a rapid drop in temperature or a much slower drop that will have a big impact on area roads for Sunday. Right now, it looks like we may not have anything. Majority of the day may be more below freezing toward the afternoon, not so much in the morning, but we'll see how that drop happens as we get some high res data on that. But right now it's just a little too far out. It can't see it. And a lot of talk, of course, about next week. And there have been some changes with that, as we'll cover. Outside, yeah, that foggy sky once again, that drizzly setup here. We've had that for a while. The snow has ended. Now, you still may be getting some flurries or a little bit of a snow mix in northeast sections. I understand that has been a little stubborn for you guys, but that is not a widespread issue, and travel impacts are unlikely at this stage of the game with anything like that. But you still may notice it out your window. All right, I cut off the word yesterday on that. This is what I get for being in a hurry today. Anyway, the snowfall total was revised yesterday. They realized that it's actually 1.9 instead of 2.5. So that has revised our total to down to 16.9. Still an impressive amount. I am sure we'll gain back whatever we lost in that adjustment very soon. So not worried about that. Overall, it was about a 1 to 3 inch event for a lot of you in the 64 corridor, and then across our southern counties, a little more of a 2 to 5 type of snowfall. All right, still 35 here in Louisville. We've been stuck there for a while. Still holding on a little closer to the freezing mark northeast sections. Again, close yard to Cincinnati, close yard to Indianapolis. A little more of an issue on a light glaze. It could still happen on elevated objects. Roadways unlikely, but still with some of those side roads, got a little bit of that dustiness snow last night. You could still get a 6 spot or 2. So still be careful until we get a few more degrees gained on the thermometer. But overall, today will be drama-free on the weather side. Just a cold, chilly, rainy day coming our way. It's not overly rainy yet, but it's coming. As I mentioned, we've been stuck at nearly the same temperature for more than 18 hours. You can see in Louisville, 34, then a whole bunch of 35s, then 34 for several hours, and then back up to 35. But not once has Louisville dropped below freezing for this entire week. So some of you obviously did, but for the majority of the Louisville Metro, that was not the case. And that kept us from having a lot of problems here on area roads in the Metro at least. Okay, the drizzle is there. It's hard to see. It will continue to expand more and more as we head throughout the morning hours. Again, everyone will have the chance to get safely above any of that critical 31, 32 mark to where this is drizzle we're talking about. But it's a very unusual track today. We're kind of actually stuck in between two different ways of getting rain and or snow out of the system. So let me widen the scope out, and now you're about to see how massive this is. This is not a weather model. This is happening now. Very active. You have the leftovers of the system from yesterday. That's kind of muddying up the look of the radar right now because we've got one leaving town, one moving in. So they're almost, catching up to each other there. But our low pressure itself is actually located right in the middle of the two. Now, sometimes you can get your core of heaviest rain right along that track. But in this case, the thunderstorms are going to steal a good chunk of the energy on the southern side to where that will cut down on the amount of heavy rain that would normally fill in right a little closer to the core of the low. Meanwhile, to the north, it's snow. Your severe potential today as that track heads to the northeast. That track is going to be generally right over us. But again, the thunderstorms are going to trap all that somewhat humid air. The Gulf is running behind on temperature compared to what it normally was, and certainly compared to last year, just because the Arctic outbreaks in January. You got even an enhanced risk that is out Mississippi and Alabama today. So busy for them for later on today for severe weather. But again, that is acting as a block already to prevent heavy rain from coming into the picture. That's fine. We don't want that. So we need a nice little break here. On the flip side, on your wintry weather side of this, because of the track, that will keep all your wintry weather north. All the winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings will be found on the northern side. Freezing rain may come back into play a little close to us as, say, Indianapolis to maybe the Wabash area of Indiana, just northwest. Of course, we'll monitor that as it starts to scoot to the east, but majority of the moisture with this system is going to be traveling with it fairly quick, and we will dry out much more at a rapid rate compared to what we've had in between these two systems. You see how close together they are. We really haven't had a chance to dry out, so that's why the drizzle just kind of lingered all night. And with temperatures at a critical level there, you had to watch it and babysit it all night. This is a little different. This wave that'll be moving in for tonight will have a shutoff valve to it. So the amount of snow on the backside is going to be relatively minor. But some flurries will be possible. Let me show you what this looks like. Here's hour by hour. Find your place on the map. Louisville right dead set in the middle there at 36 for an estimated temperature around noon today. I think it's fair. We're 35 now. And you saw the light rain on the radar. That, again, will be expanding at times today. We may see some gaps every once in a while, but in general, it's just going to be a rainy type of setup as we see the thunderstorms way to the south and that wintry mess staring us down from the north. But, again, we end up in the not exactly a Goldilocks zone. It's hard to say rain and 39 degrees Goldilocks, but at least we don't have too many weather woes out there. I don't think it's enough rain, too, to cause a rapid rise in river, but some of the rivers and streams that have been trying to go back down from especially snow melt or the recent rain events may have a little bit slower of a drop with this amount of rainfall, which would be averaging about, I would say, quarter, maybe a half inch. That seems to be the range right now for the rain for the next 24 hours. As I mentioned, the cold air does catch up to this, but if you look carefully, you may have saw a snow flurry fly on by. And even as we had throughout Thursday, you could see a few hints of snow flurry. So tomorrow's going to be much more of a winter day again. Not so much on heavy snow or anything like that. It's just that you're going to need the heavy coat. Cold wind chills in the 20s. I don't know if we'll get above freezing. Louisville tends to overachieve, so we probably get to about 33 or something like that tomorrow. But a cold day. Most of you will not get to the freezing mark, and at times some flakes will be flying through the air. But a minor issue there. We'll monitor areas northeast. That's the better moisture is going to be in Ohio, in East Kentucky, and we'll see if that could influence some of our eastern counties for perhaps a dusting. But right now, I think that's going to be too far away. But a minor setup because we have to then clear the air out and prepare for what will be coming our way for the end of the extended here. At least we get Valentine's Day without any major issues. In fact, Valentine's Day right now does look to be the pick of the 10-day. Nice. 40, I'm being optimistic, and that's really for Louisville. Anytime we put a number that ends in a 0, you got to keep in mind that means that's the high for the day. The majority of the day will be on the other side of that 0, the colder or cooler side. So we're going to look at a day in the 30s here for Valentine's Day. It's going to be a cold Valentine's, but we may touch 40. I'm not saying that 40 is warm, but compared to other days, I don't want you to get the impression that 40 is just going to be just one of those sunny, mild days. You're going to be wearing shorts and pulling up at a red light on Popper Level Road and rolling down your window and jamming your music to the car next to you. No, it's not that kind of a setup. Unless you're trying to find days. I don't know. It's Valentine's Day. But anyway, I digress. 40 degrees. Not bad. Then we get into the weekend. Now, here's what I'm going to do for the weekend. This gets a little complex. This is our next alert day setup. Normally, we show a lot of wide maps, and we will likely keep doing that, especially on our newscast. But I wanted to take a moment to zoom in on this system into our viewing area and show you how this is evolving on a much more smaller scale as it moves in. Now, there are a lot of moving pieces to what will happen on Saturday. There's actually a boundary to our north that will lay down a warm front across southern Kentucky into Tennessee. With that boundary will be another round of rain and chilly rain. Remember how we went through that last week where we had a chilly rain during the day, but it's when we got into the evening hours, that's when we start to see that warm front develop a little more as a low pressure was moving in, and it took that warm front and then pulled it to the north. And when that happened, then we had this surge of warmth into the 60s. It's an eerily similar setup on its back and forth like that of a daytime chilly rain setup, but getting a little more unstable, if you will, into Saturday night. Now, this instability parameters are not as high as what we had for last week, but you don't need much in a cold weather season thunderstorm setup. It still does not look overly alarming on severe. It's missing quite a few pieces, but I'm also not trying to translate that as saying I don't think anything's going to happen. I think that's normal for these setups for the models to not see all the parameters that we need to say, yes, this could be rough, or no, it's going to be nothing. We don't know yet because we're missing those parameters. As soon as we gain that data, which should happen in about 36 hours, we'll have a better opportunity to know when we get those missing parts, if indeed this is something to worry about or not. We're not there yet. But as always, we give you guys a heads up that at least the potential to gain those ingredients are there. And given the history of the weather pattern that we're in, weather does love to repeat itself. It's hard to get out of repeating patterns. So right now, this is an outlook for a late Saturday night toward midnight or so on Sunday. It's just 2:30 a.m., but really the way the Euro works, it can be off plus or minus 6 hours. So we got to also keep that in mind. But look at the difference in temperature. You got 40s. I mean, a cold rain in the southern areas of Indiana and near the river. And then you've got 60s across Kentucky. So it's obviously wherever the 60s surge into the Commonwealth that we need to watch for the potential for thunderstorms that could develop. And right where the two meet, where you got that chilly air and the warm air, that is where you're going to end up with some of your heaviest of rainfall that will likely develop as we into Saturday night. Saturday night still looks to be a mess. Don't get me wrong. If you don't have to travel, I wouldn't. Just stay put. Because while we're mainly focused on a lot of the rivers and streams that could get out of their banks, I think even just travel in general on hydroplaning and a lot of ponding of water on the roadways, especially at night, can't see. We got potholes everywhere, so you can't see if they're full or they're full of water, so you can't tell how deep they are, and you hit one of them, and that can change up your night. So just be careful in general on travel on Saturday. So there's two elements here on Saturday. Will we get thunderstorms? Could they be strong in Saturday night? And two, the heavy rain setup and how much rain will we end up getting out of this. Yes, as the system rolls on by, the potential for this to get colder air on the backside and have it go over to snow, it's still there. When that happens, still being worked out. In general, it looks to be close to sunrise on Sunday, and then snow showers and cold wind and likely falling temps throughout the entire day on Sunday. Again, that's why I think we need to watch for 6 spots that will just keep becoming an issue, even all the way into Monday morning, especially. Everything's done, but some of the flooding could still be ongoing. And now we're into the teens, even close to 10 above in some areas. That could cause icy patches on the edge of where the streams have flowed over the roadways. So there's still going to be road treatment that'll have to be done even after the system winds on by. So a very active setup. Now, as far as severe weather goes, there are 3 elements to this that I always try to show. When you look at the AI CSU modeling, it's still keeping southern Kentucky into that warm sector and severe risk. It's still holding on to it. Doesn't go all the way to Indiana, and it's been the theme all week. It's been aiming mainly for the central portion of the Commonwealth, not all the way in Indiana. So far, I think that's fair because the deep south is skyrocketing on the severe. I mean, this is what we call a negative tilt to this trough that's digging in. Yeah, severe weather, it's going to be very active for our friends to the south. With a potential tornado outbreak there. We'll see if we get any severe potential all the way into Kentucky or not. Still early in the game. The SIPS analogs, which is basically a system that looks at all the past weather events that have had a similar setup and what has been the outcome. And based on that, in this particular setup that it found familiar with in other weather events, it found that the majority of the time the severe weather was way to the south. So right now, only the AI is the one leaning toward a risk. Storm Prediction Center is the main one. They also are south, but they do have it more into Tennessee than the analogs do. So I do think there is a little bit of wiggle room on that. All right, rainfall. Again, this is a big story. And I'm not saying these are the exact totals you're going to see in your backyard, but I want you to see the potential this system has. 2 to 5 inches of rain, perhaps even a touch higher. That is a tremendous amount of rain and a strain on the infrastructure on the roadways and area creeks and streams, perhaps even your own basement. If it has a leak already, well, you better get that taken care of. Maybe you want to do that on Valentine's Day because this is going to be a very heavy rain setup for Saturday night into Sunday, very early. And again, that's what's going to lead to the flooding issues and just difficult travel as well. And then we're just going to freeze all this up Sunday into Monday as we move along there. All right, as far as the outlook for next week, this wave, I will say, does not look as impressive as it did yesterday. It's still moving across the region, so I think we'll get some system to move through. If I had to guess, it looks like an advisory level kind of snow, but it's early. But it moves fast, and it almost shears out, too, as it moves into the Tennessee Valley Tuesday into Wednesday, maybe even Thursday. We'll see. There's other pieces here that couldn't get involved in the Great Lakes that would influence its speed and slow it down, and at that point it gains more moisture. So there's a lot of question marks on it, but we know the energy that causes the snow, it's still there. It's still moving through. It's just that every model run is going to keep varying. Fully expect that. Don't get caught up on it. Just know that a ripple of energy is coming through, and we're going to be cold, so it will likely be a snow event for the middle of next week, maybe more than one. Too early just to talk about amounts, though, until we get a better handle on the speed of that. The matrix is out. As you might suspect, the matrix still has it listed in the system, but it is not as bullish, if you will, on a lot of pinks showing up in blues, indicating higher total potential, but it's still trying to fill in on a north-south band here and all the different ensemble members. Each line is an ensemble. And when you fill it all in, confidence goes up on that event happening. As I always say, get it filled in first, then look at the numbers and the colors. Until then, if there's a lot of gaps, just got to wait. And you can see even with the Sunday snow, my pen's going crazy. The Sunday flurries, they're not all filled in, but most of them are gray, so it looks light. And then we'll just see what happens with the time period as we get into next Wednesday and perhaps one right after that is showing up as well. All right, let me get to the 10-day real quick, and then I think News has got to do an update, so I'll need to run here. But let me show you where we stand on the numbers now. Again, chilly 40s for today, 30s, again, cold tomorrow, a few flakes flying around. And then as we head into Friday, looking good. Saturday, severe risk is not off the table yet. Cameron, I saw your comment, is not off the table. It's just that the data isn't always going to give you all those details early. We're doing pattern recognition as our own team. And based on what we're seeing right now, any slight trend at all, minor, in this gaining a bit of a slower speed or that warm front moving in, even at night, can lead to severe weather. And our experience has told us that has happened many times in our times before here. So that's the reason why we just don't want to let our guard down. Let's hope that it becomes tamer in future updates. But even if we take severe risk off to the side, it's the heavy rain, guys. By far, that is the biggest story over the severe weather on Saturday. And just cold and blustery. Oh boy, exciting stuff. All right, I got to run. I appreciate you guys as always. I'll see you guys with an update on that midday data coming in at midday at 11 a.m. See you on the flip side.